Hello, everyone. It's the Spincast Cycling Show. Once again, Brian Kellison, Brian White, Remy the dog is joining us, Lisa Vries, and Casey Shum. We don't really have an order. I just kind of say it because of where you guys pop up in my my little virtual thing here. So I do counterclockwise, sometimes counterclockwise. There's no preference, as I burn a couple minutes introing the show, but things we were talking about offline was motivation again. I had motivation to ride. I just didn't have the bike to do the riding. So I was in New York for work or for trainings or something like that. Not something like that. It was for training, but whatever. I wasn't training on the bike. I was training people about stuff. And then I was riding the bike almost immediately after. So I'd finish around 1 o'clock. And it was lunchtime, and my internal clock was like, I don't want to eat lunch at whatever, 11 o'clock. Is that what it is? Three hours? 11, 12, 1, no, 10 o'clock, whatever it was. So I just city bike, rode around New York City, regardless of traffic and people. It was fun. And I was having a blast. I'm like, man, I wish I would have. I looked at trying to find a bike shop where I could rent a bike, and I was going to bring my pedals. I just got lost track of time. But the other motivating factor or unmotivating factor was the amount of work. And Lee was talking about this just now offline. But like, there is a moment where you're like, hey, I'm stressed about work. I don't want to get on the bike. What's that like, Lee?
I found recently, yes, work stresses, life stresses really demotivate me. And it's probably the best thing to do would be to get on the bike. But that's the last thing I want to do. I feel like if I get super stressed at work, I just want to shut down and like sit on the couch and just use every extra second to relax and de-stress. And I really noticed that this week where I haven't really, up until last week's episode, I haven't paid attention. I haven't really gone like, hey, what makes me not want to ride? You know, what makes my motivation go down? And man, yeah, stress. That just kicked my butt last week. Just every time I wanted to ride the bike, it was like, nope, you're going to do some work. Got to do this, got to do this. Driving the kids all over the place. But, you know, it's only one. I think what before, though, that would really crush me because I'm trying to make gains. I can't miss riding. I'm just going to lose all my gains. And I think my attitude now more is like, it's 1 week. You know, what's really 5 days?
Yeah. It's not that bad. It's not that
much. And that would
much.
happen before was it would, you know, I would lose motivation. I would get super stressed about not riding because I'm losing my gains. And now I'm just like, yep, didn't ride. Monday's tomorrow. New work week. Probably be great. Plan on riding tomorrow. But, you know, honestly, 5 days recovery, probably the best thing for someone.
5 days recovery. Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't say like fully recovery. Like, you know, I did yard work for like 4
right. Yeah.
And,
I know. Like, you know, regular like, day. Yeah. I got you.
You know, regular day-to-day things, but like actually being off the bike.
So I'll just add, go ahead, Casey.
As I say, it's funny with the stress because the best thing for the stress is to be on the bike, but it's the hardest thing to do is to force yourself on the bike when you're stressed. Like if I'm stressed with work or something going on, but I have the time to ride, it really helps me. Where it really just blows everything apart for me is when I'm stressed and it's a bigger time commitment that takes me off the bike, right? It's like I know to push myself on the bike when I'm stressed because it helps kind of as a release. But if I don't have the time, that's when it just, and then it does kind of spiral for me too. It's trying to then find that motivation. It's like every time you get on the bike, it's a bad ride because you're in a bad mood and you let things get fresh. It spirals. It's the spiral of death, like the trainer in erg mode, right? You keep spinning.
Well, the brain's a very, very powerful tool, and it's also very powerful in when it doesn't want to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You guys talking about work and the stress, I go through the same thing. And one of the local guys here. He's the guy that's never been married, and everyone kind of meets at his house to ride. His 2-car garage is like an entire bike shop with everyone's bikes in it. It's like everyone stores their bikes there. And on one of the last times I was at Snowshoe with our mountain ride, he was telling a story about one of the wives came to him screaming because whenever her husband got off work, he came straight to his house to go for a run, a bike ride or whatever. And like they ended up getting a divorce over, and she blamed Kim. And it turned out that it didn't matter. It was just Kim was the meeting spot, and they went for a run to relieve that stress. That's what it was entirely. She didn't understand that. And it was funny because Kim said 5, 10, 15 years later, like down the road, she saw him in Kroger's or wherever, out and about. She said, you know what? She said, I was just mad because things weren't working out, and I directed everything at you because every day after work, he was a doctor. So, you know, the high stress from that situation.
Yeah.
So he would stop every day after, go for a run or ride. And so that is the thing. It's sometimes, and then people don't understand that. Like it might be our wives or friends or buddies or whatever, but it is a big thing for me too. Cause my job is all over the place. Like I've been up since 1:30 this morning. I came home, built a garden bed for my daughter, and then now I'm here. So like I want to ride, but like just those didn't work out. Last week, I
my
rode
clock
11
was all over
hours.
the place
This
too,
week's 5 hours. So
I was, that was my outlet. That first question leads into this sort of like statement or thing afterwards. And then we can get into some more stuff we talked about offline, but the motivation for, hey, I was up at 2 a.m, drove to my airport, flew to New York, immediately there, set up, get ready, work the night before on paperwork and other things, my presentation. And then I was on the next morning. So I was like, clock was weird. But as soon as I was done with that first day of training, then I just was like, I'm going to go ride around and decompress, which I know I have the baseline understanding of, I know it's tough to get the clothes on or get on the bike, throw your leg over the top tube, ride. But once you get done with whatever you're going to do, it's either a free ride or a workout or just sightseeing. That's what I was doing, sightseeing. You feel better. The endorphins go. It's like we know what it kind of feels like to be done. Like, okay, this is great. Now I had a couple things happen. One, I had a buddy who was doing training. He works for a crane, like a large, the big cranes that do the skyscrapers and stuff in San Diego. He's like in southern Pennsylvania, someplace where they do the training. So he flew into Baltimore and was there. And I was luckily in New York at the same time. And his training had ended so fast. I guess the teacher had good students, and everyone was like, hey, we might be done before Thursday. And he was leaving Friday. I was leaving Friday morning early. He was leaving from Baltimore. I said, hey, come on over. He's never been to New York. He drove to his rental car to New Jersey, came over, stayed at my hotel. But we were there, and I did a city bike tour of some of the hot spots in New York. And we rode around for like 6, 7 hours. And then we, slept for 2 or 3 hours. And then he got back into the car, and I got on the plane, came home. But he wanted to see, the non museum stuff, but we rode all the way down to the Battery, which is where you can see the Statue of Liberty. And then he wanted to see Central Park. We get to Central Park. I'm like, hey, this is that spot in Zwift. Everyone knows that ride in Zwift. I'm like, hey, he's like, oh, okay. And I'm like, the loop is really cool. It was really dark because we went there late at night. Not late at night, whatever, like 6 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock at night when it was getting darker. But I'm using Zwift to describe something that's in real life, right? So I have this relationship with Zwift that is sometimes love and hate. But when I'm speaking to other people that don't know all of the, they don't know the bike terrors, they don't know the Ruvies, they don't know all that other stuff. It was cool to share that with my friend to go, hey, this is what we're, hey, we're doing all this. Now, I wanted to bring this up because this is the thing I was saying I watched over I think it was yesterday or today or this morning, whatever it was. It was about sports. And I actually watched, friend of the show, guest of the show, ZMS broadcast, Damon Bates, right? He was streaming. I don't know what time it was in the morning. I can't remember, whatever it was yesterday or this morning. My time's all messed up. Virtual tennis, like virtual tennis championships. So it's with VR, and people are playing tennis. Right? Yeah. So you know how we go in deep dives, and only us, we're like only the virtual cyclists are we're the only ones that are like athletes doing virtual. And I'm thinking, now I don't think I didn't watch this broadcast because I think I fell asleep because I think it was early in the morning. But they had people talking, like he had like a nice production, whether it was the company that does the game or I think it was MetaQuest, the visor. I think that's what people are using. And so it wasn't like virtual tennis where it's like really, you know, like the blitz, it would be cool if it was like that. And I was thinking, this is kind of like real tennis, simulations tennis. Unlike what we always talk about is, do we want simulation or do we want Mario Kart or the power-ups and that sort of balance of real sport, simulation, and virtual sport. So I was like pretty intrigued by like, oh wow, this is another sport that's like they're sweating underneath it. You know, they had like real tennis players. They were on like a tennis court or something like that. And maybe we can find it on one of his previous broadcasts. I think it was on the YouTube, the ZMS or ZMS, whatever one people want to call it. But my question to you guys is, can we have a balance, or can we sort of have a lot of other sports that are simulated help guide us in what we want to be doing, right? Like, hey, do we want to have, or do we want to help influence, hey, power-ups, maybe power-ups in the virtual tennis? I was thinking that like immediately. I was like, hey, what if you have like a, you know, I don't know, a backhand, like a cool down backhand, like your backhand is better, so you can reach a backhand better in a virtual game. Or do we want to have simulation only? Because it'll go into the next thing, which is the rules, which we'll get into with Lee, because Lee went down to the what is it, ultra endurance world of rules. We'll get into that. But I wanted to asking you guys about the other sports, simulation versus gamification. Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah, you can kind of play both sides of that, right? So I look at it from like an iRacing perspective.
Okay.
You've got really good simulations out there that like your pro drivers are using those simulators during the week to prepare for the next weekend kind of thing, right? Like it's that realistic that they get acquainted with the track, they get familiar with it, but then you could maybe have, you know, an arcadey type driving game that is still very realistic, but you're hitting power boosts and, you know, doing things like that. So I think if you go full simulation, you open the door for that training type thing for training the I don't want to say real athletes because they're all real athletes.
Okay,
right?
So let me ask you this: I'm asking a question about because I don't know iRacing like you know iRacing. Are there athletes that are taking advantage of being physically fit in the virtual world only, not doing, because I've done competitions where people go from virtual to real racing, like the GT academies and stuff like that. But is it physically demanding to sit in a car rig and do the thing like the Thrustmaster that's giving you some resistance? Or is it like with the virtual tennis, you have to be standing up well, you don't have to be standing. Maybe you do have to be standing up. And on the trainer, that's a lot more physical activity. Can you train off the bike to be better in the game? Or off the racing?
Yeah, I think like the racing's tough because it isn't as physically demanding, right? It's more
that's what I was saying. It's like
it's more of a skill, but also, you know, you bring up a good point that like iRacing will allow you to turn down the force feedback. So they don't have these like expert rig only races where you must have full feedback and it's capable of ripping the steering wheel out of your hand, right? Like
the resistance you're like really having to hold the steering wheel and really like if you don't have a lot of good upper body strength, it's going to affect your gameplay.
You can do that, but you're not required to, right? You can do just like trainer difficulty. You can go in there, slide your force feedback all the way down where you don't have that resistance.
I like that. Or I don't like that they don't force you to do that, but I think that's I think that they could do force feedback only races, right?
Yeah.
Like
they don't, but they could. Yeah.
They could. That's weird that they don't. So, but yeah, did you guys have anything to add to that? No, but the sport aspect of it is like, man, I was like, wow, this is really cool. This is another game that could, like, what other games could
How many viewers did they have?
I didn't look. Damn it, I should have. I wasn't really. I was watching the gameplay. Now, it was a very clunky. It looked almost like, straight up, like their feet weren't like a real thing. It was, it's kind of like on rails, the way that they would move left to right. But guys were hitting, like, I saw a double fault and some like aces. And I didn't see, the one thing I didn't have, and I don't know if Damon can, if he's in chat or something like that, or go back and watch it. They didn't have the webcam of the real person doing the physical thing in their space. It was only the game. So it was like the back shot from the foreground player versus the background player. That was the shot. There was not a lot of shooting, different shots to cut to, right? So the broadcast, I think, can improve, but I was just so intrigued by, hey, physical sports with VR, they have to be sweating. I mean, any sort of thing, like even if you're doing the virtual boxing, because I would do virtual stuff my previous job, and you'd get sweaty, and I would have the glasses on, and I'm like, man, this is not fun.
So,
unless there's better cooling.
So that kind of takes you into, right, what Lee kind of dug into this week of how much should indoor measurements and skills be 100% related to outdoor versus their own flavor of that sport, right? We have mountain bike, cyclocross, road biking. Does virtual need to be a simulation of something else, or should it be its own discipline?
I think it should be on its own discipline, but that's me.
Yeah.
But so mountain biking and cyclocross, I think come from road racing or road riding. They just took a bike. Some people started to do modifications. So it spawned from the original, which is what virtual is it's trying to have slices of the origin sport, but then creating its own sort of lane, right? Like cyclocross is like a road bike that you ride on dirt and fields, and then they go through stairs and all that other stuff, where mountain biking is a modified road bike, but it's on a mountain, and you're like, oh, well, we have to do this. Well, virtual racing is, hey, you have to use trainers and all these other things to simulate this, and that's where you get the power-ups, because you can't do power-ups in the real world. So it has this, or you don't, I mean, there's some races that don't have power-ups, but that's where I think Zwift is sort of setting up, like, hey, we want to have power-ups. We don't want to be a simulation as much, but we want to have simulated physics. And we can argue here and there the simulated physics change across whatever. So it's like, it's a learned discipline.
Yeah, at this point, I don't view any of the main tools as simulators any longer. I used to try to view them of how they related to outdoors, but I've kind of separated those in my own head at this point. I don't view any of them as trying to be a simulator. They're trying to be similar, but not a simulation.
Yeah, exactly. And that went back to, so if anyone doesn't know, because we're talking about stuff that some people, even from last week, or anybody that's new, we had a quick conversation about I can't remember his name, the gentleman that was doing the charity
Matthew
event. Matthew Lefthand, who did a 24 hours nonstop, correct? Nonstop? Or you're allowed to stop, but it affects, see.
Like he had 6 minutes off the bike.
He chose 6 minutes. You can ride for 24 hours if you want. If you physically can ride for 24 hours, but if you I have to stop and go to the bathroom, that's allowed. Yeah. It just cuts into your time. Like you're just,
if you're off the bike, you're off the bike, and you get zero distance.
He did that, and he did it virtually. And then we had questions, and then throughout the week, people were finding answers to those questions. A lot of investigative reporting. Lee's one of those. Chris Schwenker's, I think his name, Chris, from the
Schwenker.
from the virtual
Collective.
Escape
the,
Collective and the Virtual Velo podcast.
Yep.
He is, I believe, going to have an interview with them or somebody else, but he's also adding some of the, hey, we're answering some of these questions, because some of us posed questions and we're getting some answers. But go ahead,
I'll
Brian.
say I kind of started like just I glanced over, read the headlines, didn't dig into it, and
you didn't deep dive into a long Discord post.
Yeah. So Zavarese, I was real busy with work. So Zavarese in our community in Discord absolutely went crazy. I think at one point I had 85 unread messages about this. So at that point I just gave up, and I'm going to listen to the Spincast to catch up.
Yeah. Okay, so this is so on the screen for anyone that's just listening. Sorry, let me
These are the records that were broken by Matthew.
From the World Ultra Cycling Association. Now they have a rainbow, but is that just their own logo? They're not really officially sanctioned by the UCI. This is not like a UCI thing. Well, I mean, okay, whatever. I'm just trying to say that, like, hey, there is a World Ultra Cycling Association that people are buying into as the governance.
Yeah, like they have a board of directors. It's like a full-on association. Yeah, it's actually been a very interesting week, because when this first happened, my view has almost completely changed.
Same.
Because I think there was some misinformation, because he did do it.
This show had reckless speculation.
Totally reckless.
No way.
Yeah. Well, I think there was a lot of reckless speculation because, I mean, from the whole community, because he was live streaming at Zwift's headquarters. He was riding in Zwift. Zwift did set him up with a pacer bot that would simulate record pace.
Yeah.
So what happened was they didn't come out with a lot of details. Like his write-up and then the World Ultra Cycling Association's rules, if those sort of didn't get looked into until after the reckless speculation. Like his write-up, actually, I'll post the link in chat, is amazing. He talks about nutrition, training. It's 9 pages that he wrote up about how his
post-ride debrief.
Yes, his 9 pages.
But there was no so the thing is, we didn't know about it. We were sort of reacting to it actually after it occurring. Maybe we are on the outs of knowing where this was to then follow it a little bit more. And so we're asking questions after the fact. But was there a marketing push or a charity push?
There was it was charity. He was fundraising for cancer. His mother apparently is afflicted, and he was doing it for her. So there was a great component on that. A lot of companies threw in. I mean, I think the advertising, typical Zwift fashion, was non-existent. He had a 24-hour live stream on YouTube. There was Nathan Guerrera interviews. There was big names in the community doing interviews while he was riding, people riding with him. And it was no one knew about it till it was over. Yeah. And
I think that the big assumption was if you witnessed that spectacle, right? If you were, and it was over a weekend, if you ran across the streams and all that, right? The visual of it all was a guy riding his bike in Zwift with a draft, with this pack, all these things, right? And that's when we're all like, why does this guy get all these advantages? Why? I need a blob if I'm going to go for the record. Is Zwift going to give me a blob? Is Zwift going to give me a pacer? And then as Lee dug into it, that was all for, I don't want to say for show, but that all had nothing to do with the record. Nothing to do with the record at all.
Yeah. So I just posted the actual virtual WUCA rules in chat so people can look at them.
WUCA, is that what we're calling it?
That's what I say. WUCA, World Ultra Cycling Association.
Okay.
WUCA.
Another acronym.
Is that like a Star Wars animal? I mean, it is. Yeah. It is May the 4th, right? So I mean, a WUCA should be a Star Wars.
Are we last minute? We're gonna at the end of the show, it's May the 4th. We're gonna have the breakdown of our favorite Star Wars.
So the basis of the rules,
so stay tuned for that.
And the problem I think that I had initially was they call it virtual. It's a virtual record. To me, I guess with the new age of cycling apps, to me, virtual means cycling app. To WUCA and the ultra cycling community, virtual means not outdoors, not on a bike, or not on a road. It means you're on a trainer virtually simulating an outdoor ride. And so the rules get into it where they actually send someone, a representative from WUCA, to your location and you are to perform a calibration ride. You have to use the same bike, and they do real world CDA testing on you to get your CDA baseline in the aero bars. And then what they do is when you are riding on your trainer, the trainer was calibrated by, they had a rotor and then the Wahoo Move. They actually brought representatives from the company to calibrate that, to be witnessed by WUCA representatives in Zwift headquarters. Like Wahoo sent someone to calibrate the move and go, I'm a representative Wahoo and I deem this calibrated.
Right.
So it's pretty official. So, I mean, it's a big thing if someone wants to make this attempt. But what they do is they create your CDA in the time trial position. Okay. They then have multipliers that if you go out of the time trial position, they factor a different CDA for you.
Okay.
Now,
I remember this discussion of this because, hold on, let me give a shout out to Harry. Don't know. Yeah. Harry in our Discord posed this question, and when I did have time, I think I was sitting in an airport. I'm like, oh, I have time to wait for a plane. I can chime in now. And it was about he was willing to pay for this CDA thing to have it affect his abilities in Zwift, where the WUCA is just doing it for their thing. That's the virtual. It's like you're inside or wherever. It's not an outdoor CDA. And so that posed the question of like, do the platforms, once we got further in the week where you found out it wasn't the platforms, the sort of choice, it was the reason why WUCA is doing their own testing and own thing is because they're having their own rules regardless of the physics of the virtual thing. The virtual thing is just like, it's either like Netflix or Zwift or Movie or whatever, which is kind of cool, but we're not going to be there yet because this is a large event, but like, is this possible to do without having to send somebody physically there?
Well, and that's
then
why
the whatever honor system is what we always discuss.
Well, and that was kind of my thought originally, and I know Casey was sort of thinking the same way. We were like, there's an easier way to do this. They could just do this in Zwift, because our thoughts were, or my thoughts anyways, was positioning doesn't matter. If you sit up in Zwift, it doesn't matter. If you stand up in Zwift, how many elite racers stand up for a majority of the race? And we're like, I mean, we've all had that funny thought. We're like, oh, in the real world, if you stood up like that, you'd be going so slow. But it's Zwift. It's not the real world.
Right.
So then that's our thoughts on Zwift. But then all of a sudden this record attempt comes along and WUCA's like, no, we value position. Position is like the be all end all. And we're like, well, it's virtual. There is no, and then, so I actually wrote like a very long email to WUCA just saying, hey, this is my standpoint. This is what I see. I would really love to hear your thoughts on why you came up with these rules. And they sent back a novel, like super appreciative. I was like, holy crap. And the guy, and honestly, the more I read into it, the more I'm going, the apps aren't there. No. The apps aren't there to this level. This is almost needed. And I've changed my mind where I was like, no way, this is the stupidest rules ever. And now I'm going, how else could they do this?
Yeah. If you take this record, you deserve this record, right? Like there's no question about, oh, you had this advantage. It was a different version of the game. You chose a different route. You had more friends. Like, to me, the biggest struggle with this, I think, from a public perspective, is the miles that he completed on Zwift have absolutely nothing to do with the miles in his WUCA record. His WUCA record is calculated based on his power and the CDA that they calculated, and then whoever's mind-numbing job it is to go through 24 hours of video and calculate how long he's on the tops versus standing up versus tucked hands and right.
Well, there's basically like on the screen, there's 3 positions. You're in the arrow, you're on the drops, or on the hoods.
So on the screen for people that are just listening, there's 3 things that the WUCA virtual records rules and certification process. Right. Number 1 is tuck hands on drops is 1.3 times TD time trial arrow bar CDA. Number 2 is tops hands on hoods 1.6 times TT aero bar CDA, and then standing upright or semi-upright, which I guess is just kind of relaxing and getting a drink or stretching your back, not really standing up, is 2.0 times TT aero bar CDA. So that's for people that understand what we're talking about. Is they're going through, and this is just they're viewing the video. They're not looking at Zwift data or anything like that, or Ruby or whatever that person used to stare off into the nothingness. This I like how they clarified it, and it's very cool. Thank you, Lee, for doing it. And I'm with Casey on. I think we're all on the same page that this is a great accomplishment, and it's actually really interesting organization that's doing this and trying to solve an issue for the virtual attempts. Yeah,
they're very much making it a simulation of outdoor riding, which there's something up on the screen that you put up here, Zab, that's like it's tugging at my own heartstrings, because I have this background a little bit that you can ride a recumbent. It has a line in here about recumbent bikes. It's imperative that your backrest angle is the same. And Clutch mentions it in chat right now, where it's like this. He watched an interview, and this guy was saying how hard it was on his body, and it's like he had to ride in the aero position for 24 hours. If the rules weren't like this, we all know people in the community that are A plus riders that could do numbers getting in, that could take a run at this, but they're going to be sitting upright on a comfy bike, doing whatever they need to do to stretch out and all that. Like, that's what makes this so different, right?
Yeah. That's why I'm with you. This brings up a thought that I just had right now is, Lee, maybe we can reach out, or we're trying to get somebody from the WUCA, the World Ultra Cycling Association. We're trying to get somebody on.
I responded back to WUCA after they sent me a novel, because I think my initial email came across maybe a little combative, and so terse, I said,
maybe,
well, a little bit, because I just sort of was like, why would you guys do this? Like, this is weird, And then after reading this and spending the week digesting all this info, as soon as they responded and I read their response, I replied right away and said, hey, I apologize if my first email came across as like a little bit like combative. Like, that wasn't my intention. I was just genuinely interested on how you guys came up with this rules, because we love indoor cycling. And I think it would be awesome to have someone from WUCA on to just sort of explain the situation. Because I think, like Casey said too, the dude rode in the TT bars for like 24 hours and 54 minutes. 273 watt average.
Well, that's the thing.
You can't deny that effort.
That
is insane.
Just to put that in perspective for you guys, I was the TT specialist, right? State time trial records or state time trial jerseys for me were in the 315-ish watt range for 52 minutes. That's a 28 mile an hour average on a flat TT course for a 40K. Like, this guy was only 40 watts off of that for 24 hours. And I was in a super aero position, and I'm assuming he was too. It was comfortable, but it was super aero, which is why I was only doing 320 instead of my 350 is what my FTP was at the time, because I couldn't do that much. Like, putting it in perspective for me, I'm just like, there's no way. Like, 220, 230 was like long distance riding on the TT bars for me, and we're talking like 2-3 hours, like Ironman stuff would be low 200s.
His position's up right now on the screen. But I tuned in a little bit because I didn't know what was going on, and he was in the aero position the whole time, and somebody was talking, and there's people drinking and partying out behind him, but he was like really focused on it, and I guess he was doing interviews and stuff like that. But it takes a toll on the body just to stay in that position.
Like, his position is not insanely aggressive.
No, it's pretty.
But it's like he's aero. And actually, I was going to say the reckless speculation about Zwift's involvement was, we've heard that Zwift changed the in-game CDA to try to match.
Reckless speculation,
That's huge reckless speculation, because we don't know for sure, but we have heard, or I've heard, that Zwift changed the in-game CDA so that his WUCA record and the Zwift mileage was as close as possible.
Okay.
Because I think he actually rode 650 miles in Zwift, and his record was 658 miles. So that's pretty accurate.
All right.
At least they didn't make the dude wear the helmet. Man, that's the biggest hot box there is on the TT bike.
Oh, right, yeah.
Well, and it's interesting. I would recommend reading his 9-page write-up because he has a whole section on nutrition where he talks about he ingested 25 liters of water and gained 7 pounds during the effort, which means he sweated almost 50 pounds or expelled 50 pounds worth of, but he was only off the bike for 6 minutes, and the amount of calories he ate, it just blows my mind that he was only off the bike for 6 minutes because like I have done some long rides and I tell you there was some like emergencies that I had to get off the bike, and I can't imagine with the amount of food and gels and calories he was taking in that there wasn't like at least 40 minutes off the bike.
Yeah.
I think
that's right.
Go ahead, Brian. You got something or no?
Oh no, I was agreeing.
Okay. No, so
the
I'm
lack
thinking
of time off the bike.
Right. So I have a couple things. One is I think Zwift is just supporting the cause, right? I don't think that they're trying to like do anything other than just be like, hey, you can do it here and it'd be a great event. Let's have you, and don't worry about you're going to have the WUCA thing and then whatever. And Zwift maybe is trying to align with that. That'd be kind of great. And I think it's a positive thing from Zwift. The other thing is a question maybe when we get them on, can somebody do the aero test, or no, excuse me, somebody do the baseline CDA test going, look, I don't want to do an aero position. I want to do the regular on the hoods or in the drops position. And then if I choose to go to an aero like puppy paws or something and get an aero advantage, can you increase your CDA and then decrease your CDA if you sit up?
That's not in the rules. I actually looked into that. So basically it's like the rules are designed for TT bikes
only.
And so, I mean, what would happen is
TT bikes or TT positions?
TT positions, because basically what they would do then is test you in your TT position. And then if you want to ride on the hoods the whole time, you get the 1.6 multiplier. Because
even though you're not like a TT person.
Yeah, take the penalty.
I think anyone, because I understand what you're saying, but I think any person that is possibly ever going to want to do this is like into this kind of thing, and is full on TT.
But this goes into my other comment. This is like the V Everesting or the Everesting consortium or whoever they are. They have a virtual version of their rules too, that are like the fun police, as we like to call it, even though, but it's like, it's more of like just to say, hey, we're doing our thing outside of any virtual world, because you can do a V Everesting. Wait, can you do a V Everesting without a virtual world climb?
It's got to be, if you're going to do an official V Everest, you have to do it on MyWoosh, Biketerra, Zwift.
That's in the rules. That's in the rules.
It lists specific apps. Yeah, it lets you choose, but you have to choose from the accepted list.
But what if you just set up? Let's say, hey, I want to do something like this WUCA thing, and I'm like, look, I'm going to turn up. I'm going to choose the ride, and let's say Biketerra, because you can do your own GPX, and you can have Everest, like Bjorn did an Everest course for me, because I was supposed to do one, which maybe I will eventually, but where it's nonstop, where you don't go up and down and up and down. This was like you continually ride, and you have your kicker climb, give you the elevation, and you're like, I have the resistance like it would be on the gradient, and I ride this whole thing, but I'm just, do I have to do it in a, I guess you do. I guess they want you to have a simulated climb, right?
Here are the platforms that are approved for V Everest: Zwift, MyWoosh, Ruby, Full Gas, Biketerra, and Training Peaks Virtual. Those are the 6 approved platforms.
Okay.
So there are some requirements. So BK, it's I think it would be interesting to see if you could design a GPX that would allow you to do a constant climb and still be within the rules. And I know somebody mentioned it in the chat too, and I recall this. There used to be a rule that the up and down, the up had to be a Strava segment.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's still the case or not on the virtual ones, because not all of the platforms register with Strava segments, I don't think, anymore. So the Strava segment got weird when Strava got shut down all the segments.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if your name's not Eric, you can't make an indoor Strava segment anymore.
Yeah, right. But my question is like the way that WUCA has sort of taken ownership of like, we don't care what you're looking at. We're going to do our own CDA, which is like their own virtual word.
Like, he didn't need to be in Zwift. He could have stared at the wall for 24 hours.
He could have done it for Ruby. He could have done a Ruby one.
He just needed what, the video, right, to prove his position and the power.
Yeah, he needed that person to show up to do the baseline, and then they just applied that to the video recording of it. Yeah. And that's where I was saying, like, if the V Everstein wanted to do it with their own sort of like, hey, we don't care what the platform is, but you have to do this sort of thing. I bet you it's more harder with their math because, you know, there's CDA going up a hill, but not as much out of the saddle. Do you get more power? Yeah, I guess it's just like a can of worms. But it seems like this WUCA has solved it for themselves.
Yeah, because of CDA testing, I was just quickly scanning through. They're saying that during the test, they want you to pick a route that you can average over 30K an hour.
Okay.
So they can really dial in the CDA based on speed. And they even show their calculations. Like, this is some thought out rules.
Very cool. Okay.
They've definitely taken it serious, right? Yeah. To make sure that the downside to it is you aren't just going to decide, I'm going to go next weekend and try to set the 24-hour record like people do with the VFers kind of thing, right? To go set your own 24-hour time recognized by WUCA, you're spending some money and you're working with you. I'm assuming WUCA's not doing this for free and sending somebody out and doing CDA testing and all that. Maybe they are. But, I mean, the assumption is you've got to be serious about this and you've got to be a legit record attempt, not just setting a time.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's probably a resume that you have to hand in that they look at and they go, there's no chance you're making this. You're wasting everyone's time.
Yeah.
And a majority of the people that have a shot at this record are people that are involved with WUCA IRL, right? They're doing this outside too.
They're known to the community. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've looked into this kind of stuff when I was hardcore into TTs and when I was doing the recumbent stuff and like doing 12 or 24-hour races that they do on like racetracks where it's a 2 or 3 mile course that you just do loops for 12 or 24 hours and, you know, basically your last full lap is your distance for 24 hours.
And there's like age groups and like he was the virtual male 18 to 49 upright bike, non-fixed gear. There's also track ones, like there's actually
upright bike is probably
classes.
Yeah.
Guinness World Record too. That's his Guinness record. So I put it in our little virtual chat here, but I think now I don't know for sure. It'd be kind of cool when we have them on. So there's the way they get their. I wonder. Let me start this again. How do they capture the CDA at someone's house or wherever they go? Right? Have you ever heard of BioRacer Aero? Which was like it's an indoor thing. Go into chat. Leave. You can bring it up. I put the link in there. This is like. For doing instead of going to like a wind tunnel, you can do a virtual one, and it's like a green screen, which they might set up and do the green screen thing, and then they can calculate when you're out of, it's like a virtual arrow position. So it'll give you that value, and then they go, okay, we have the value, and then when they go back and look at it, as you can see on the screen, if you can zoom, I don't know if you can zoom in on the screen, maybe you can go through and scroll down, see if there's some more. Yeah, there it is right there. So the frontal area, so it's like, that is sort of your frontal area. Then it's giving you this is Remco Evenepoel's, right? That is probably something like this, or they have their own, or they use this, where they're like,
no,
okay,
they basically make the guy there's like in the rules, it actually says here, you need to select a course for your baseline aerodynamic test
They just do it based on the power.
Yeah. They do CDA estimates of your virtual speed and distance. To do this, we need to know the atmospheric conditions, air temp, air pressure, humidity, which all can be obtained from local weather stations. You should pick a time of day when the wind is calm, and then it lists like
they did it outside.
Yeah, it's outside.
Oh, it's the Chung. It's the Chung one. It's the it's the.
I mean, like bike. What is it? Bike cheater, cycling cheater, whatever it is. It has a tool in it that you can do that.
What's his name? The guy who created it.
It basically just takes your speed, the the outside atmospheric conditions, your power output, and then it gives you a CDA.
Well, then we should talk to the dude, because if the guys could get this, then they don't have to watch 24 hours of video, and they can just have this do the things for, like, you get out of this, like your CDA would change all the time, and be like, hey,
well, and that was my thought too, because like even if you're in the aero position and you shift a little bit, your CDA is changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we kind of talked about this. Like, I don't think it would ever hit mainstream, but it would be super cool to have an app that actually did this, right? Where when you're virtual racing indoors and you stand up, you have less CDA. You might have more power, but you have less CDA. And if you can sprint on the drops versus on the hoods, you're going to be faster. Like things like that. It would be super cool. Now,
it would be cool because it expose a lot of people in indoor racing. Like, I'm
Which
a
goes
bigger
back
dude.
to Harry from our Discord.
Yeah. Well, and like me, I'm a bigger dude. I'm really flexible. I can maintain a very uncomfortable TT position for a long time, and I can produce my FTP in that uncomfortable TT position, which I know would greatly help me in the real world TTs, but it does jack squat for me in Zwift TTs.
That's the part I always had a hard time with TTs, and unfairly so, right? Like, tall guys can get aero. It's a little harder, but they can. You shouldn't automatically get a penalty because you're tall, but that's where you get into, right, simulator versus just, what is it? Simulator versus a similar, right?
Yeah.
I'm listening to somebody do dishes in the background, but
that's my house.
Okay.
So I want to circle back to the Everest thing real quick. How many people do you think have done an Everest?
Not enough.
A lot.
Not enough, Brian.
Oh, like
There
virtual
needs everybody.
Everest?
Well,
No,
this
everyone.
just says
No.
Everesting Hall of Fame. Now, I
600
and it
people.
gives me the filter for all of it, like the ride virtual, run supported, unsupported virtual, all this. Like,
Share the link so Lee can get it up for us.
I mean, I know in the community, like a dozen people have done it virtually.
No, the virtual Everest is this the website? Yeah.
No,
Let's
that's with Power.
It's 32,325 people have done an Everest of some type.
See this link
And
here.
Wow.
that's surprising to me. That's crazy. Now, that's all Everesting from what I'm guessing, because I can filter out. It doesn't change that number when I filter it out. But going back over the last 100 virtual Everest, there was only 3 on my whoosh, and they were all on the dedicated V Everest route, Snowfall Mountain in my whoosh world.
And I would bet
It's not the funnest event to do.
I would bet I shouldn't say most of. I would speculate recklessly. 50% of the Zwift V Everests probably aren't documented with the V Everesting official thing, because you've got to turn in dual recordings and you've got to do all these things. You've got to prove 100% trainer difficulty, all that. These guys that are just jumping on Zwift, they're not bothering with turning it in. They're just doing it on Zwift and getting a badge and that sort of thing.
They don't want to deal with the fun police. I get that. They're just like, it's like, I'm going to go I'm going to go ride around, like, I'm going to do 100 kilometers around my neighborhood. And like, there's no 100-kilometer certification team
Check
that you
out
deal
this.
with. It's like the stress of dealing with it. You don't want to.
This Antonelli here, he did a V Everest like on the 1st of May and then the 3rd of May or something. He did them like 2 days apart. Scroll down right there. This guy's an animal. Like, it wasn't a full Everest.
He's got a star next to his name, so he's definitely.
Yeah.
And he did it on Koldu's
somewhere down
Sabat.
below. He has 10 Everests. Like, he has a badge for 10 Everests.
This is a guy that really likes that stuff. That's the thing, is there's people that really like this. And this is Everesting.
There's a guy
but there's
in the Twitch
virtual
community who is doing a V Everesting all the time.
Oh yeah, Schnabel.
Yeah.
He would
every time he was on Twitch, he was doing a.
He was like, I'm just gonna do it, and he would ride for like whatever 12 hours, and he would do his he would do it on iPad. I think he rode his bike on an iPad. Like his Zwift was an iPad.
Yeah.
And he would just do that, and he was just like, I'm gonna do my thing. This is what I like doing, and it's like I can back that. Some people just are too serious sometimes. Sometimes I just like a casual, like, hey, I'm gonna do a V Everesting up there. He did it up the radio tower every time too. It's like doing the radio tower.
And something that I'm going to try to do on Tuesday. It's the FRR. It's called V singles. Basically, it's 3 up Vanto and 2 descents. You get the kit.
No,
that's what it is. I need a long ride.
Just say it again for us. Tell us again.
And you get a kit.
Tell us the mountain climb you're going to do.
Vanto. Come on.
Perfect.
Vanto.
Yes, that's it. Nailed it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just like Dominique Chalabah.
She's in chat.
I'm sorry,
too.
Flight.
She's
We
gonna get
can't
mad
control him.
saying her name wrong.
Yeah.
It's I love it. I love the name.
Tuesday. I'm going to spend. I have a 5.5 hour time limit, so hopefully I can get it done in 5.5 hours.
Good luck. Get your certification in, and we can do it.
Yeah, but FFR says literally we don't care what you do as long as your trainer is connected and you have a smart trainer. That's essentially the rules that I found. They said we don't care what you do, 10%, 100%, whatever.
They're like the
so that's kind of more of a community challenge.
Yeah.
But that's nice too because they're like we don't care, just do the ride and submit your stuff. That's literally all the rules were.
We have about 10 minutes or so. The question that was posed, Lee made a statement. I don't even know if it was a question.
Did I?
Yeah. Your Zwift is expiring.
Oh, yes.
Yes, and
May
you made
13th.
a statement. You made a statement. So now I have a counter statement. I just got a referral, so I get an extra month. I think people are referring me to make me keep doing Zwift.
That's good.
Like they're like, oh, bro, because I got an email. It's like, hey, you have a free 30 months from your referral, and I'm like, I was not gonna even do this, and now I have. I bought the month, and then now I have another month. So, what your stance is still? Let's share this with the community here. What's your stance?
I actually haven't paid in 18 months.
Yeah,
my free 18 months is up in May 13th. And no, honestly, I haven't ridden Zwift.
Yeah, but your motivation is different. Explain your motivation because you shared it with us privately.
Well,
I don't know if you want to, but you don't really like racing. You don't like racing. You're just like a rider.
I used to race.
Yeah.
I used to enjoy racing. During COVID, I did all the ZRL seasons. I did WTRL every Thursday night. I got 60 plus team time trials. I loved that. I thought I loved Zwift because there was people. When I'd ride, I'd be like, look at there's a guy. He's on his trainer in real life. Yay. And last year I went through a span of demotivation and I jumped on Zwift, tried to do some routes and thought, this isn't doing it for me anymore.
Yeah.
Jumped on Ruvi because Ruvi simulates.
You did do Ruvi very early on. Yeah.
I did Ruvi like early
September.
on, like before COVID, and
then I jumped back on
Ruvi. The original Ruvi, and then I did Ruvi again in September. And Ruvi just simulates what I enjoy doing in the real world. Like when I get on my bike, I have sometimes a route in mind, sometimes not, and I get on my bike, I go outside, and I ride, and I sightsee, and I just enjoy being on my bike and in the fresh air. I mean, Ruvi is in my garage, but Ruvi gets me to like 90% of what I feel when I ride outside.
Right.
It's exploring the world. You get lost in the video and you're just riding. And
the latest improvement has definitely improved the video. The HUD is one thing, but that's sort of like when I was riding in Manhattan on the city bike or whatever, I was going fast, right? But then along with going fast, I would hit a red light and I would stop. I just wasn't like, oh, I got to go. I would like, you know what? I'm going to sightsee and see this different, oh, there's this. And there, people watch because there's so many people. That's a great motivator, and sometimes Zwift doesn't do that. Like you want to ride with people, but you want to ride with people
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Zwift racing doesn't intrigue me anymore. I mean, I thought ZRS was going to get me back into racing, but the whole like ZRS plus categories kind of annoys me. I've done a bunch of Ruvi races, but I don't do them seriously. I do them because there's 1,700 people that do them.
Yeah, right.
Like there was the Ruvi big race, which I signed up and didn't do this morning. There was over 2,000 people signed up. Those are fun races.
Yeah.
2,000 people on a 28-kilometer course that had a whole ton of downhill.
Yeah. So I'll pose a sorry, if you want to go.
Oh no, that's okay. That's one of my biggest surprises to Ruby, because I thought Ruby was just like this small off thing doing its own thing. Like,
no, there's people on there. Yeah.
If you get on Ruby, just from, I haven't done it, I'm just watching the streams from you guys. There's 10, 15, 30, 40, 100 people on this stuff. And I hop on my whoosh and you might have 15. It's crazy how many people are on Ruby doing the events and everything. And other platforms, even Zwift right now is a ghost town. So it's actually incredible what Ruby has.
This, I do want to bring this up. Casey, you got anything for that or no? Just
No, I've had a similar experience. Even the smaller races, I did a Ruby race today. I had 8 starters, but it was 4 of us battling it out for the win at the end, and I got dropped in the last little bump. They were stronger than me, but it was a great race, and it was really 5 of us battling. It's like the course and the dynamics and everything, just it works. And I had a similar experience on Bike Terra on Friday with the OTR age group race.
Right, there's races on OTR, which is very cool.
Yeah,
so you're getting people on there, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there was one more thing I was going to say. I can't remember the train of thought, but whatever. If it pops into my head when we got like 5 minutes or so. May the 4th. Let's get into the Star Wars thing. This is off topic. Star Wars thing. May the 4th. Okay. This is what I want. This is impromptu because I forgot it was May the 4th because I don't care. I love Star Wars. Don't get me wrong. I love Star Wars, but you think I have a love-hate relationship with Zwift? Get in line, get way back with Star Wars. Yeah. Let's go. What's your favorite Star Wars? And then whatever. But your favorite Star Wars, whatever entity, whatever you think is Star Wars, and why? And then what's one that you're not really a fan of? So I'll kick it off here. Okay. Return of the Jedi. That's my favorite. The reason why is, when I was young, how old am I? I was born in 76, so the movie came out a year later. I didn't see the first Star Wars. Like, I went at 1 year, and I didn't go as 1 year old. But they would re-release it when the movies were out. I was too young to see Empire Strikes Back, so I saw Star Wars first in the theaters when they put it out, or they re-released it or something. And then I didn't see Empire Strikes Back. I saw Return of the Jedi. That was the first movie I could hold my bladder to see the entire thing. Like, I was busting at the end. I was like, I'm going to see I went with a friend of mine had a birthday party and took everyone to Return of the Jedi. And I'm like, I'm going to stay and I'm like watching this movie. And I'm like, I'm not going to leave to go to the bathroom to come back because I was, younger. And I love Luke Skywalker and the green lightsaber, but that was I have a fondness for the struggle between a son and his father. My dad and I kind of butt our heads sometimes. And I was like, oh, that's how I relate to this movie. That's my Return of the Jedi is my number 1. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add to that. I would agree with that.
And I don't care about the Ewoks. Like, everyone's like, oh,
yeah, I grew up in a similar era.
I wasn't watching for the Ewoks. The Ewoks are cool and light, and like, they didn't kill Han Solo, and they probably should have. That's why Harrison Ford's like, what are we doing? We don't have anything to do on Endor. I was more into the struggle between the father and son and Jedi stuff. But go ahead. Sorry, Casey.
Yeah, I think we're all the same age.
Yeah.
Range. So I think we all have the same sort of opinion where we appreciate the older. Like, I'm not the most massive Star Wars fan, but I'm going to go with a scene, episode 3 of basically the reboot that they came out with that most people don't like. The final
I'm one of those
scene,
people that don't like it, but go ahead.
The final scene in episode 3 when we first finally see Darth Vader, when they pull him up off the thing and he tells him that Padme dies and he basically like destroys the instinct. Because that one scene, that gets me.
Gets you in a good way or a bad way?
In a good way, where it's like, finally we get to see, what's going on here.
Okay.
See, I was always in for like the chase scenes or like the car chases. So it's like was it dropping the thing in the Death Star in the magic spot kind of thing, right? Like,
the photon torpedoes.
Yeah, where he's zooming through
the trench thing where they put they put like the biggest flaw, their like exhaust pipe, but that could be always the same thing. It's like, Beverly Hills Cop, banana in the tailpipe, man. If your exhaust is messed up, you back it up, messes things up. Go ahead.
Yeah, like I can't pick full movies where I'm like, oh man, that whole movie.
Okay.
For me, it's individual scenes. Like if we're gonna
That's a
go
good scene.
even new, Mandalorian season 2 when we get to see Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
That scene is amazing.
Was that season 2 or season 1?
I think it was the last episode.
It was the end of season 2.
Really?
Yeah, where they're like all in the control room and they're like, "Oh,
Yeah,
great!
no.
This one X-wing is coming to save us," and it's freaking Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, I see. I like that. That's why. Well, we could have a whole nother podcast, which Brian White and I are probably going to do, a Star Wars, because I have tons.
Chat's like, it's time to cue the music.
Oh, cue the music. All right, Brian's got his. Yeah.
So I watched it completely different than what you guys experienced it. I didn't watch a single Star Wars anything until 2000, let's say 19. All right. And I started with the chronological order. So I started with episode 1 when Anakin was a little slave off in whatever. So
that's Tatooine, buddy.
Well,
I'm sorry, I'm judging your parents right now. Come on. How did you not see this until you were 19 years old?
No, 2019. So I was like 36 when I saw it or whatever. Yeah. 2019. I didn't have cable growing up. We lived in the boonies, so that's one excuse. But regardless,
rental movies?
No, we were out working. No, I apologize. But
just checking.
So for me, I was watching all through the cartoons, every single aspect of it. The Clone Wars, all those cartoons, that's my jam, man. Phenomenal.
The Clone War animations.
The Clone War cartoons and Rebels, and then the Mandalorian series.
Okay.
That's hands down my favorite bubbles of the Star Wars universe.
Perfect.
My least favorite are whatever's happening with the sequels, like the most recent 7, 8, 9. It just let me down.
I haven't had a good experience with Star Wars since I saw Return of the Jedi. How about that? No, I like the Mandalorian. It was pretty cool. Andor I like as well. But
yeah, see, I love Mandalorian solely because you could sit down and watch it and not have any idea what Star Wars is, and it's a good goddamn show.
Yeah. All right, we can end on that. But we're gonna have more. You know what? We should do a spinoff, Brian, because I could easily go. People have been on my stream; they've seen me go off.
Yeah.
Brian and I have a very diverging experiences with Star Wars. But happy May the 4th for everyone. Congratulations to Mr. Lefthand again.
Definitely.
And the WUCA team for giving Lee the Rosetta Stone for the rules.
Changing my mind.
I think they've changed all our minds. I think it was like it was really the cool thing. I think last note on this, it's very definitive.
Yes,
it's like it wasn't like, well, it was like no, this is it. You either accept it or you don't. And I have a fondness for things like that.
I respect it. I respect it. Yeah.
You know? So.
And it makes it good because 10 years, 20 years from now, say our kids want to do it, it doesn't matter the platform.
Yeah.
The physics haven't changed. It's like, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Here you go. So.
Yeah, true. Let's end on that. Because I can easily go, let's end on that. Play the music, even though there's no music. Play the John Williams theme from Do Not Play It, because it'll get so blanked and we'll have to pay somebody. But you understand, everyone play that, everyone cue it up in their little music player. Happy May the 4th, everybody.
See you guys.